Welcome back to Inspiring Builds. I'm Dan, and in this video I'm going to show you how to prep and paint your front door, and the best part is, the door will not need to be removed. This front door needs major attention, especially when looking up close. A front door leaves the first impression and will either make or break it with curb appeal to your home, so let's get started so we can make it look like this. If you're new here, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of these tutorials. To start, remove any items on your door such as the wreath and the wreath hanger as shown here. Prep work is key. With this door being stained and having polyurethane pilling, I start by using a flexible sanding sponge. Even if your door is painted, these sponges are great for going over any rough spots. Sponges such as this has a different grit on each side. With this being a newer door, I used 80 grit. These sanding sponges are good for sanding details and getting into corners. Use a sponge to sand all of the detail work on the door. Grab a sander to make quick work sanding the rest of the door. Test an area first with 120 grit. Use an orbital sander if you have one, but a finish sander such as this one will get the job done as well. The bottom of the door was in worse shape due to getting the most direct sunlight, and 120 grit worked pretty quick. I tried 120 grit on the top section of the door, and it was taking much longer with minimal results due to the door being newer and finish being protected from most of the direct sunlight. I switched out the 120 grit sanding pad to an 80 grit to make quick work out of it. When sanding, sand the direction of the wood grain. Day 1 came to an end as we were running out of sunlight from not starting until later in the evening. Sanding resumed the morning of day 2. I thought the sanding was complete, but if you look close, you can see some pilling polyurethane and a detail work near the top half of the door. I used a sanding sponge on the top half, but the bottom half I used a different process, and you can see how much better it worked. I found that using an 80 grit sanding pad and folding it in half as shown here required some elbow grease, but made the job much quicker than the sanding sponge. I finished the exterior sanding by hitting all of the detail work on the top half of the door, ensuring all of the pilling polyurethane was removed. With this part of the process being outside, I fired up the leaf blower to make quick work of removing the bulk of the dust. A shop vac with a brush attachment will also work well. Some people make comments that I'm like Tim the Toolman Taylor with more power comments, but time is money. With moving inside the house to complete the rest of the work, use plastic sheeting around the exterior trim and secure it with painter's tape. Measure from the ground to the trim work above the door. Lock in the measurement with the tape, roll out the plastic, and cut at your mark. Secure the plastic to the trim work with painter's tape. With this being an oversized door, a ladder made it easier. The width of the plastic was uneven and slightly wider at the bottom. This can easily be trimmed with scissors. It was a windy day, requiring extra tape on some of the plastic. Now that the plastic is up, it's time to work inside. Sanding outside the house was able to take care of everything but about a 1/4 inch around the perimeter of the door. For this, you can either hand sand using the same 80 grit or use your sander along with a shop vac if you have one to help minimize the dust. The sanding is now complete. Use a damp microfiber towel and wipe the door to remove all of the dust particles. Repeat this process until you have a clean microfiber towel that no longer picks up any dust particles. Allow time for the door to dry prior to painting. Here are the paint supplies that you will need, along with a drop cloth to place under the door. For primer, I recommend sticks that is great for interior or exterior and pretty much sticks to anything. For the paint, I prefer Benjamin Moore's Aura exterior paint in a satin finish. While the door is finishing drying, tape off the hardware and bottom door sill as this one was screwed to the bottom of the door. Apply the sticks primer using an angled brush, focusing on the detail work first. With painting the detail work first, if there are any paint drips, you can address it while painting the rest of the door. After the first coat of primer is applied on all of the detail work, use a roller for the rest. A 6-inch white woven nap was used on the roller. Just like sanding, apply the paint in the direction of the wood grain. The first coat of primer is complete. It may fill dry quicker, but I recommend waiting 4 hours between coats. Apply a second coat of primer and allow another 4 hours to dry. This wrapped up day 2. With starting in the morning, it allowed both coats of primer to be dry. The front door was able to be locked to secure the home, which is why I prefer this method. On the third and final day, the paint was applied. Use the same technique as applying the primer. For the paint, this 2.5-inch angled brush was used for best results, and I will leave a link for it in the description. Roll on the paint the same as the primer as well. We weren't sure what paint color would be applied, and the sticks primer was purchased first. You can always tint the primer, and this may save on a coat of paint. Here are some tips to consider when painting your door. If you have windows to paint around, applying Rain-X on the windows makes it easy to remove paint. If you want to eliminate brush and roller marks, Floetrol is an excellent paint additive. Don't paint the mortises or where the lock sets go to avoid any fitment issues when reinstalling the door. Always ensure to prime first, regardless if the paint says it has primer in it. Lastly, start early in the morning and don't rush the recoats. Wait about 4 hours between recoats. This door was primed starting in the morning to beat the direct sunlight and allow enough dry time. The first coat of paint is complete, but with the primer not being tinted, a second coat of paint was needed. A total of 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of paint was used. Only a quart of each was purchased, which was more than enough for this wide 8-foot tall door, leaving about 1/3 of a can left over of each. Remove the painter's tape and address any minor touch-ups. We were happy with the results. I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, I have another one queued up for you in the corner that you'd probably like as well. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I release new videos.